Hello, people of the internet. So, today, doing something a little different, something a little funky. I'm going to be putting together a tier list of my favorite and least favorite Punk-O-Rama releases, ranking them from S tier to D tier. If you don't know what Punk-O-Rama is, it was a series of compilations released throughout the mid 90s up until the mid 2000s. And it was kind of, in my opinion at least, maybe a lot of people's opinion, it was for its time, I guess, the future of where punk rock was going. It was, started by, Epitaph Records. So that's Brett Gurewitz of Bad Religion. And it's, very much the sound of what mid 90s punk music was. Cause if you know the history of punk music, it got really big in the 70s, kind of died in the 80s. And then, with Nirvana and then with Green Day and all that, it came back. And this was for its time, it was the modern sound of what punk rock was to be, whether you liked it or not. Because I know a lot of people don't like, obviously not just Punk-O-Rama, but the bands that were on it, because it was kind of what they call the epiphat sound. So that is, a lot of the bands that were on Epitaph, a lot of bands that were on Fat Records, which is Fat Mike of NoFX's record label. So it definitely, I understand why people don't like it, but a lot of it to me is just a lot of purism. Because I mean, if you like punk music, I don't understand why you wouldn't like this. It's, if it's just where the sound was headed, and that's where it went. There's nothing wrong with punk rock embracing a more melodic sound, even a more pop sound. As much as that word is overused, it was, a much more melodic form of music, of punk music, which to me it was great. It's what made, the Stooges great. It's what made a lot of really good punk bands great, was that, melodic sound, and the choruses that you could call pop choruses. In my opinion, like I love pop punk. I love this era of punk music, especially. There's a lot of diamonds in the rough on these records, and I think that they're very, a lot of it's just puricism is all it is just, hardcore punk fans saying that, well, if it doesn't sound like the Casualties, if it doesn't sound like this or that, then it's not real punk. This is poser, teeny bop mall punk. It's whatever. I couldn't care less. I'm here for good music, and I think, these records were great, and I think these comps were pretty great, except for a few that I'll get into. But that's just my little preamble. I love the Punk-O-Ramas. It's what I grew up on. It's what made me into punk music, which was one of the first types of music I ever really heard. I grew up listening to Punk-O-Rama 5 and 4, and that's what led me to listen to the newer stuff. That's how I got into Blink-182, and then that's, as I got older, I got into the older stuff and understood where the roots of punk music came from. Get into the rankings. I'm going to rank these starting from, oldest to newest. There's only 10 releases from 1990. Let's see, from 1994 up until 2005. So that's a good, 11 years of releases. There was a couple years that they missed. So let's get straight into it with Punk-O-Rama 1. And I think if you don't like that epiphat sound and that newer sort of poppier punk sound, then this is probably the only Punk-O-Rama, maybe Punk-O-Rama 2 as well, that you'd actually like, because this has a lot of, more of the classic, really great 90s punk bands. And that too, I will say, the reputation it gets is pretty true, because if you've heard NoFX, if you've heard Rancid, if you've heard Pennywise, every band basically sounds like them on these records. It's just, that's the sound that they liked. Like Fat Mike is very notorious for signing bands that sound similar to NoFX, and I'm sure Brett Gurewitz probably did the same thing. But it's worked. It worked. It's good to have a consistent sound, I feel like, on your label. But yeah, so I mean, this record, it has a lot of older songs on it. Like, it has Do What You Want from Suffer by Bad Religion, which is one of the most acclaimed punk records of all time. So that's a great song. It has Don't Call Me White from Punk and Drublick, another, like, NoFX's breakthrough record. Yeah, it's got a good Pennywise track on there. Yeah, I'm personally not a big fan of this record. I think they would do a lot better throughout the middle of their output. But again, if you like the older, like, it's got an RKL song on there. Jennifer Lost the War, actually, from The Offspring. Very funny to see an Offspring song on here. Especially from their '89 record. It's really funny. Oh, there's two NoFX songs. That's right. Yeah, Liza and Louise. Yeah, that's a good song too. SNFU has a song on here. Yeah, it's pretty good. I'm not a huge fan of it, so I guess I would put it. God, I hate to put it in B. Okay, it's gonna seem like I'm really harsh on these, but I'm gonna put it B tier. It's middle for me. It's It's all right. It's not the best, but Punk-O-Rama 2 released in 1996, so they missed 95, and 96 is pretty good. I listened to this one a lot growing up, definitely. It has, I think it's the only one to have a Poison Idea song, which is funny because Poison Idea are one of my favorites. Yeah, Just to Get Away. Feel the Darkness, that's a great record. Yeah, Feel the Darkness was a fucking killer record. Yeah, it's got a Rancid track from Let's Go. Yeah, it's got a Me First and the Gimme Gimme song. That's funny. Their cover of Only the Good Die Young. Yeah. Oh, Perfect People by Pennywise. That's a really good track too. And then Coffee Mug from The Descendants. Whatever DD Wants. I'm not. I really kind of don't like that song. I do love Heavy Petting Zoo, but I never really gave too much about that song. Another SNFU song. That's funny. Bad Religion. Oh, another song from Suffer. Wow. That's funny. That record really was that fucking good, dude. That's funny. Yeah, definitely a really good one. I grew up on this one. I still have the CD. I would definitely put it A tier for sure. Really, really solid one. A lot of variation in there. Punk-O-Rama 3. This is when they started to get more of that classic mid to late 90s Epitaph sound. This is like when you think of Punk-O-Rama, you think of 3, basically 3, 4, and 5. A lot more, like you got the Dwarves on here. You got started to get a little bit more hardcore bands, H2O, Straight Faced, Rats in the Hallway. That's a good song. Bad Religion. Yeah. Wow, that's so funny. Yeah, the track You, that's a great track, but it's also from a pretty old record. It was already 9 years old at that point. The first Voodoo Glow Skulls track to appear on Punk-O-Rama. They were definitely very underrated, I feel like. I definitely liked the Voodoo Glow Skulls in terms of that ska sound. And then the No Effects track on here that was exclusive for this record was really good too. Definitely. That's one of my all-time favorites. We threw gasoline on the fire, and now we have stumps for arms and no eyebrows. The Agnostic Front song is really good too. And then the Cramps have a song in here. That's funny. Yeah, and then a few other duds, I guess. I don't know if I'd call them duds, but just, I don't really care about Red Ants, Gas Huffer. Yeah, this one's okay. I would probably put it in B tier, I think. Yeah, I think B tier is pretty fair. Yeah, I'll roll with that. Still a lot of great tracks. I like the Zeke track too. And the All track. Yeah, that's tough. I wish I could put it in between. Punk-O-Rama 4. And one thing about this record, this is the first, and it really stands out when you look at all the other album covers. It's the only one to have like just a photograph. There's the Punk-O-Rama text over it, but even this one, which is made of a bunch of photographs, it's still digitally made and all that. A lot of people really hate this album cover, but I kind of like it. I think it's, that's what happens. The Pennywise track is one of probably my favorite Pennywise song. Definitely, it's a Punk-O-Rama exclusive. Let's see, 1998 is also probably my favorite Rancid song. Like there are a lot of bangers on here. Kids of the K-Hole, of course, all time. No Effects track. Faster Than the World is really good. The Bad Religion track is really good. Mr. Clean, Millencolin, definitely. That's a classic fucking Millencolin song. They were really good. Seriously. Oh, can't forget Refused. I forgot Refused had 2 songs on 2 different Punk-O-Ramas. I wonder if that record was... Oh, it was on... I believe it was on Burning Heart. Yeah, it was on Burning Heart. Man, yeah, that record, man, still one of the greatest, most widely acclaimed punk records ever. Summer Holiday vs. Punk Routine, that's a really good track. And the rest, I guess, are pretty forgettable. That's the thing about these records. It's you can just put it on and just listen to it, and it's it's a good listen, but you're not going to remember half the tracks you hear because, again, like every band sounds the same. So if you're not sure where to start with punk music, if you just want to throw on a record, then, this is, a good way to kind of get adjusted to what the sound was. And yeah, this one, I feel like I would want to rate it higher, but because I do listen to this record a good amount. Yeah, I'll throw it in A. I think that's fair. So now we go on to Punk-O-Rama 5, which, in my opinion, already I'm throwing it at the top. It's the best Punk-O-Rama, period. Peak Epitaph punk music, you know what I mean? Like when I don't think there's a single track on here that I really don't care about or that I don't like. Like they're all, they all really stand out to me, at least. Um, I can even go through and name all of them because they're all just that good. Like, Pump Up the Volume. It's a classic NoFX track, and unfortunately, the record of the same name wouldn't be as good. They put one thing I really don't like is that instead of putting "Refused" or "Fucking Dead" by Refused, they put a weird like breakbeat remix, which completely throws off the vibe. It's right in the middle of the record, and I just don't understand why they did that. Like, why? I don't know, because I mean, everyone knows they Refused by 1998 when you put out that record. They wouldn't put out another record until 2016. They went on a long hiatus, so I get they weren't making music, but I don't understand why they didn't just put another song from that record on there. Because this track is just kind of forgettable, and it's just so forgettable, and it's not even punk. But of course, as we'll get into later, that's a theme of Punk-O-Rama's later. By this time, the Hives had a track on here, which I think is really funny. Yeah, I know the Hives. They were very, indie rocky sort of garage rock stuff. Really like the Guttermouth track. Yeah, there's just so many. They're all, yeah, to me they're all really good tracks. Really solid. It's the best you could ask for in terms of all these, not to be mean, but no-name bands that sound like the rest of the other bands trying to put together a song. Like, they do differentiate themselves a good amount. One thing I will say that's very interesting. This is the only Punk-O-Rama to not have a Bad Religion song, which is, really weird. I don't know why. Yeah, and I think this might be the only one to have a Satanic Surfer song, but they were super underrated. Like, really fast, but really melodic. Like, their choruses would be super melodic and sound great, but they would just play it like a breakneck speed and just really technical shit. They were really good. And then the first Punk-O-Rama with the Death by Stereo song, which Death by Stereo also I really like a lot. So yeah, easily S tier for me, for sure. I don't think any other of these will be an S tier. Yeah, like, this is peak Punk-O-Rama. And then Punk-O-Rama 6. This is 2001. So this one's probably the one that have the most unreleased tracks, because there were 6. Yeah, I never listened to this one too much. I never really had it on CD, and I know I've listened to it before, but I just never really was into it. I like the Death by Stereo song, obviously. Yeah, the NoFX song, Path of Least Resistance. I really like that one. That one's really good. I think that song is actually in fucking Dance Dance Revolution, I think, actually. Or some, like, one of their clones. Yeah, I just don't remember much of these songs, Like, they were all pretty forgettable. Like Hot Water Music, they're great. I think this is the first one with Hot Water Music. They're a fantastic band. I like the Guttermouth song. This one was pretty forgettable. I never really was into it. I'm definitely putting it in C tier, because I could still put it on and listen to it, but I just never really, Punk-O-Rama 7, I really liked. I really liked the vibe. It was very different. It didn't even really feel like a punk vibe, I guess, in a manner of speaking. It almost gave me like an indie rock kind of like vibe, if that makes sense. I don't know, especially with the album cover, it's very, very different for them. But, I kind of liked it. And this, to me, was like the last true to form Punk-O-Rama, I feel like, which we'll get into after this. But yeah, I really like this one. This was when Rancid NoFX did the BYO Split series, so they were covering each other's songs. Olympia by Rancid, performed by NoFX, is probably like top 5 NoFX tracks. Like, it's hard to believe that they did it better than Rancid, because that was from Rancid's best record and their breakout record. But that they did that song so well. They just made it sound so much. They played it faster, and just the melodies on there are incredible. They really did that song so much more justice. The Pennywise song is really good. That's when Pennywise kind of were in their like renaissance. They put out a couple really good records around that time. Like the one with Fuck Authority on it. I don't remember which record that was. The International Noise Conspiracy, I really loved Up for Sale. That song is one of my favorites. I still listen to it all the time. Wayfarer, I love Hot Water Music again. Very cool to open with the Millencolin song. That was definitely a good choice. And I do like Rancid's cover of Bob by NoFX. Wasted Words, Death by Stereo, that's a great song. That was a really good record by them too, for sure. The Guttermouth song, though, is really terrible, Even if they're trying to be funny, I just think it sucked. Overall, though, this is a great Punk-O-Rama. I might even put it... It's also shorter too. I kind of like that, how it's, it's not like 30 songs. Punk-O-Rama 8. So, this was a very interesting time for Epitaph. I was not around at this time. I don't know what was going on with them, but they started to sign rap artists and, non-punk bands, and they put them on Punk-O-Rama. I don't know if this caused any sort of like outcry at the time or not, but I mean, it's kind of the same argument people do with the whole like, oh, should rappers be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Like should they make their own Hall of Fame? Whatever. It's a similar kind of theoretical quandary to think about. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that rappers should be on a Punk-O-Rama. And I love Sage Francis. I love Atmosphere, especially. I grew up on that shit just as much as I did Punk-O-Rama. Even if they're on Epitaph, they just don't belong on Punk-O-Rama. It just doesn't fit. It's the same thing with that Refused song that was just a breakbeat version. It completely threw off the vibe. And all the Punk-O-Ramas by this point, especially because they got way longer, it's so disjointed and just hard to get through. I feel like with the other records, even though it's like 30 songs, I don't feel like I have to get through it because it's just, one by one, bam, bam, bam. That's what punk music is about to me. It's just fast and quick and just balls to the wall. But, that's not what hip hop is. That's not what indie rock is, And the Black Keys have a song on here. I guess the Black Keys didn't suck at this point, but I guess they would go on to suck pretty quick. But yeah, I like the NoFX song. War on Airism is a great album. The Distillers are great. Fucking love the Distillers. The usual bands are on here. It's all right. Oh, Transplants have a song on here. That's cool. Oh, Refused have a song on here. Yeah. Yeah. It's all right. It's also one of those, like, whatever. I'm not really too into it. I'll probably throw that in C tier, I guess. Like, again, it's not bad. And especially, Sage Francis and Atmosphere were fucking killing it this time. And then I believe it's either this one or the next one had Danger Doom on it. That Atmosphere album, Seven's Travels, was great. I don't remember which Sage Francis album that was. Yeah, great albums, great songs, but just don't belong. It's that simple. So Punk-O-Rama 9. And also this is where they were getting more, with the emo bands. But I understand that because I do, as much as if anybody doesn't like emo music, I fucking love it. It's just an evolution of where heavy music is going. That's where it was 2004. That's where metal or punk music or whatever you're into, like that variation of that music is what was popular. And that's just that. I love From First to Last. I believe that album that this song is from is one of my all-time favorites. Love it. But yeah, I believe that at least belongs on a record like this. I wouldn't consider it punk music, but it makes more sense. And I guess they've always, you could also make the argument that there's been non-punk songs on Punk-O-Ramas, whatever you get it. But then I'm seeing a lot of bands I don't recognize that, like, I've heard all of these records, but I don't know any of this. Oh, Idea and Abilities had a song. Again, I do love Idea and Abilities. Nothing really good. I might even, fuck it. I'm throwing Punk-O-Rama 10 in D tier, even though I do love that From First to Last song. That's probably the only song on this record I actually, like can remember that I probably liked. I'm sure I would like the Refused song and all that. Punk-O-Rama 10, this is the last one from 2005. Failure by Designer Jeans by From First to Last. I believe that was made exclusively for this record. I do like that song a lot. Definitely a really good one. Some Girls. I feel like that was they were a mathcore band. I feel like it's Justin Pearson. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I forgot that was his band. I don't remember any of their music, but I know Justin Pearson is, a legend in grindcore and mathcore, so shout out to him. I don't even remember the NoFX song on here. I don't even know Fun and Fundamentalism. Oh, Converge had a song on here too, yeah. Converge are fucking awesome, definitely. Yeah, just a lot of forgettableness, I would probably put this one in D as well. I did not mean to have 2 in each category, but I guess it worked out. Yeah, this one's just, it's there, I guess. I'm sure I would like a lot of songs, if I could remember them, but yeah, it's just, yeah, they completely lost the plot by this point, and they would try and rebrand and put out another comp called Unsound, which was basically just emo bands. And well, actually, no, I was wrong. Yeah, just sad to see them go that way. But by 2005, punk music was in a completely different spot. So it's just how it goes. But yeah, that'll do it for this video. That's my ranking of all the Punk-O-Ramas. It's very near and dear to my heart. This is a big part of my music life and where punk music started for me, where heavy and where noisy music came from me and led me down to a lot of different types of music. So I definitely, cherish a lot of these records. And yeah, thanks for watching. Catch you later.